In this video, I want to look at the top 7 challenges or problems with doing real estate in Nigeria. And this is one video that I'm going to be very factual, unbiased, and real with you about the real estate sector in Nigeria. And this video will help you know all of the problems to look out for and, of course, how to avoid those problems as much as possible. You don't want to invest in real estate with the goal of making money and end up losing money. This video will definitely help you to solve that problem. So again, top 7 common challenges or problems with doing real estate in Nigeria as an investor and how to solve or avoid each of these problems or challenges. My name is Raymond Ijoma and I am the lawyer that loves real estate. Or if you like, the real estate entrepreneur that uses law and real estate as a tool in building wealth for myself and my clients. And this video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd real estate company right here in the very city of Abuja. And as a company, we bring you the absolute best of real estate. And we ensure that we don't just give you investment opportunities to invest into, we also teach you and educate you on how to play safely and rightly while investing in real estate for the purpose of building wealth. And ladies and gentlemen, do subscribe to this channel, like this video, drop a comment, and share this particular video with a friend or as many people as possible so that we all are aware of the problems and how to solve them. So let's get right into the conversation. Now, the very first challenge, the topmost challenge about doing real estate or wanting to invest in real estate in Nigeria is the genuineness issue, right? Stroke title. Now, I have taught you over time that law is the foundation of everything real estate. Now, law is what guarantees the security, safety, or sustainability of any form of investment. But usually, the challenge with doing real estate in Nigeria, or part of the problems with doing real estate in Nigeria, is the problem of finding genuine properties, right, with good titles. Of course, the question of good title is a conversation for another day, and I have done the video in that regard, how to know good title documents, how to know genuine title documents, all right? And then we may not be able to exhaust all of that in this conversation. But as a pointer to what you need to know for the purpose of this particular video, number 1, involve a sound property lawyer. So let's call this SPL, sound property lawyer. Involve a sound property lawyer that understands what applies in that region and knows the principle of erring on the side of abundance. Let me say that again. The lawyer should know what applies in the property jurisdiction you are looking to invest into, and as well knows the principle of erring on the side of abundance as it relates to property transactions. And that principle is simple. Know what applies primarily and also know what is necessary, so that in the event of any unforeseen circumstances regarding that property jurisdiction, you will also be fine. You may not understand what I'm saying here, but a sound property lawyer will understand. Number 2, buy or make sure that your realtor or broker is legally smart. Legally smart. Now, in other words, your realtor understands the legal implications of everything real estate in a way that makes him or her to know what to avoid. Because our system is unregulated, a whole lot of persons just wake up and boom, they are realtors. And by virtue of being realtors or calling themselves realtors, any property that is available in the market is for sale and they put it out in the market, right? But a legally smart realtor will not just sell anything that is in the market. Rather, he or she would sell only what is legally compliant or genuine. So you need to consider this a test to determine whether you should buy from this realtor or not. And that test is the test of being legally smart. C, understand the land administration of where you want to invest into. For example, Abuja. Abuja has a very beautiful and amazing land administrative system, but a whole lot of persons don't understand it. And by virtue of the fact that they don't understand it, they do things anyhow or do things with the mindset of where they are coming from, particularly for those who invest in Lagos or some other part of Nigeria, right? So understand the peculiarity, understand the system, understand the land administration of that location you want to invest into. And sometimes it is customary, which takes us to D, right? Understand the customary practice of that location, right? Either you're buying from a family at a customary level, or you're buying from an individual, or you're buying from a community, right? There's customary application, there's customary practice that must be paid attention to. For example, you don't buy a land from a principal member of a family. Rather, you buy land from a family with the head of the family involved in the transaction alongside the principal members of the family. The same thing with the community. You don't buy land from the head of youth chairman, right? You buy land from people who are designated as custodians of that community, and most of the times the head of the community must be involved in that transaction, right? So there are a lot of things that apply under the issue of genuineness and title, and then you can check out other videos so that we can proceed and finish this one as quickly as possible. The second and very popular problem with real estate is liquidation. And of course, I know you will totally agree with me. I have been dragging other forms of real estate or vehicles of building wealth, right? Like stocks and all of that stuff are the complete direct opposite of real estate. So while real estate is stable and forest, stock, and some other forms of vehicles of building wealth are volatile, right? The problem with real estate on this side is liquidation. And as an investor, everybody wants to liquidate at some point. How do you now deal with the issue of liquidation? Okay, to deal with the issue of liquidation, number one, always see real estate as long-term. Seeing real estate or buying real estate and wanting to sell at the snap of your finger is not the wise thing to do, right? You must always see real estate as long-term. I'll summarize the point, but let me go to B quickly. B is don't sell at will. Don't sell at will. I've seen clients who, anything happens in the village, they want to sell a property, right? Somebody dies in the village, boom, they want to sell a property. Your car had a crash, you want to sell a property, right? So you need to learn to consider real estate again as long-term, and don't assume that you're just going to sell it at the snap of your fingers, because when you do that, what usually would happen is that, assuming you are even able to sell it, then you sell it below market value. So for example, you tell a client that the property is available and then will give you 100% return in 1 year, right? 100% return in 1 year. And then the client buys the property, and 4 months after, the client says, I want to sell the property. And then the client is expecting you to sell it and then give him or her, say, around 40% return on investment, since at least he or she has waited for that property to get to 4 months, right? At that point, you can't be expecting real estate to do that for you. And the moment there is pressure to sell a property, you sell below market value. In fact, it is selling below market value most of the times that will trigger the sale to happen fast. And the other part of the problem is that, I think is already taking me to the next point. The other part is that for you to quickly liquidate or liquidate as quickly as you want, is that you have to wait till, for example, as me, you're buying into an estate, wait till it is sold out, right? That is C. Wait till it is sold out. By the time the company is selling and you are trying to sell, you can't sell what the company is selling. It means that you have to sell below what the company is selling, right? So it's better that you wait till the company is sold out, and at that point, demand for that property will increase, instead of you trying to force yourself to make a sale when a lot of sales already happening with the company that owns the property. And then even if you buy outside, you also have to look at the environmental factors, because then again, nobody wants to buy property from you at an expensive price, especially if the person knows or understands the sector. It is important that you look at this from a long-term perspective, and then you don't rush to sell. In fact, I had a client who recently, he may be watching this video, very nice property that we bought for him, and then property is technically ready, right? And then as of today, is going for 85 to 90 million naira, right? And then he just called, and I was asking him, how long are you giving us to sell this property? And then he said that if I can sell it tomorrow, right? But the truth about it is that when that kind of pressure or instruction comes, automatically you may not be, or you should not even be expecting this. At that point, you're already reducing the value of the property, right? So it's important that you see real estate as long-term, and then have other means of investment that can deal with your issues, or any other form of vehicle of investment that can give you that quick liquidation that you need, that real estate may not be able to give to you, right? And then there are different instances and contexts to issues of liquidation. Currently, I have a client who wanted me to sell a property, but in the same location, we have 2 estate projects currently ongoing, owned by us. And some clients will not want to buy a secondary sale when there is a new one ongoing, and they know that they are entering at the lowest entry point of that particular product. So at that point, contextually, it presents a challenge with liquidating some properties. But the best form or best way to maximize your investment, even though you still want to liquidate, is to give it time. time is of the essence. Time is important if you want to maximize the profits for that investment that you're making. We'll give an example. We did a video where I talked about somebody who bought a property in 1992 for 7 million naira, and then in 2025 it's valued at 3.5 billion. As I mean, they want to sell. The only reason that it's this margin of pricing is because a lot of time was involved. This is a lot of years involved, not 1 year, not 2 years, right? So under the principle of land banking, you must give it time if you want to enjoy liquidation, except you are doing flipping. With flipping, it's a different ball game, right? But this is another conversation for another day. But generally, there's the issue of liquidation, but you can deal with it by applying any of these principles and more that we can share as time proceeds. The third and popular issue with real estate is financing. In other words, I don't have money to buy it, right? It's more than my budget. Now, this is a general problem, and unlike the UK, US, and some other nations of the world where there's a lot of financing from government or financing support from government, that's not the position here. In fact, according to statistics or information or research, only about 25% of Nigerians are able to own their own homes some years back. Right, as against places like UK where there are over 70% ownership rate. That is because there is financing from the government. So understand the reality of Nigeria. In fact, a place like China has over 80% ownership rate, and again, that is because of government support, right? But then you must understand the reality of Nigeria and understand how to play in the system, right? And the solution to that problem is simple. Stop waiting for all the money. Stop waiting to get all the money. And then if you are saving to invest in real estate for a part, for example, you have a land of 5 million, right? And you're trying to save that 5 million to buy that land, right? And before you are done saving, depending on your earning power or your purchasing power or what you earn, right? If you're not careful, by the time you are done saving up the 5 million, the property in question might have gotten to 7 million. Right, and then you keep going on and on and on till you are never able to afford the property, right? And that takes us to B, which is use installment plans, right, or payment plans as the case may be, right? And this is very innovative. Kudos to real estate companies that have brought this in. Usually you don't buy a property from an individual, or you rarely buy a property from an individual and then expect a payment plan for as much as 6 months, 1 year, 3 months, as the case may be, right? So use payment plans. And again, even if you have all the cash, my opinion, if you are a smart investor, this is a conversation for another day, right? But as a smart investor, you leverage on cash at hand to key into multiple projects at the same time. And then, of course, depending on your cash flow as well. But generally, use payment plans. And then from my experience with my clients, even though I know I especially prefer my clients, I know over time that by virtue of the fact that they've made the first commitment, that first commitment usually comes with the commitment to want to finish it. I've had clients who will make an agreement for 6 months payment plan, 4 months payment plan, and they end up finishing it in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, as the case may be, right? So the first move, or the most important move, is making the first commitment, which is the deposit. And with that, you will be fine moving forward. C is go for what you can afford. Yes, go for what you can afford. To be honest with you, a whole lot of us want to buy properties in the heart of the city when what you can afford is the developing city, right? Go for what you can afford and wait for development to happen. If you're waiting to save to afford the city or Asokoro, for example, when you cannot even afford Kiami, then you're going to wait for a long time, except a miracle happens, a breakthrough happens that makes you hit the kind of money that can make you afford Asokoro overnight. Except that happens, you may never be able to afford even the Kiami that you could have afforded some years back. And the last one I'll share here, there are more, but the last one I'll share here is collaborate. Right, I have clients who split payments. For example, we have a property of 10 million naira, and then they come together and say, okay, I'm coming with my brother, I'm coming with my friend, and they will buy it 50-50, and then 5 million, 5 million, and they have a property, right? And they can do that over time and then be able to now separate the property or share the properties as the case may be, right? So collaborate instead of waiting for you to be able to afford it by yourself. And the fourth challenge or problem with real estate is government revocation. Government revocation or demolition, as the case may be. Now, if you've watched my videos, you have talked a lot about the Land Use Act of 1978, right, which is the act that governs anything real estate generally in Nigeria. All right, and then it gives government power to be able to do a whole lot of things as it relates to land within Nigeria. But then again, right? Beyond talking about this, now let's look at the problem that it has brought at some point. The first problem is the issue of revocation. Government can revoke a property. The other issue is the issue of demolition. Now, to solve this problem generally, by the time or anytime you have an allocation, look at the terms of the allocation. Some terms of allocation provide that you should build in a location in 2 years, depending on the location involved, right? Because government primarily wants the place to be developed. Government doesn't want speculators, right? So develop that place in 2 years. If after 2 years you don't develop, it is clearly there. You had an agreement with government. It means that government can take it back if you don't develop in 2 years, right? So look at the terms of the agreement you had with government. And the B part is that you need to invest in line with the plan of the government. Government is ultimate as far as our human realities are concerned, right? And then government itself has a plan, right? For a place like Abuja, we have what we refer to as the master plan. And the master plan guides everybody. There are places designated as green areas. There are those that are roads. In fact, there are places, in fact, I did a video recently where I showed somewhere that clearly, right, if you look at it with your human eyes, you would never have believed that that place was a road, right? Because it was literally in between a school and a church. And then right there is just somewhere that was looking like a very nice commercial space of, say, around 2,000 square meters. But then it was a road, right? And definitely may have taken time, but government eventually opened it. And if somebody had bought it in the name of a land, then the issue of demolition comes in, and then we'll start having issues. So the second solution to government issue is always invest in line with the master plan of your city or by virtue of the planning of that particular city. And with that, you will be able to avoid the issue of demolition or revocation. Now, at the ultimate level where revocation is maybe for whatever reason, political, right? At that point in time, you can go to court if you have your papers, right? Of course, this has its own terms and conditions, but the summary of this conversation is that if you're able to do this one, A and B, you will be fine and have almost no issue ever all through your life with the issue of revocation or demolition. And of course, there's something that will definitely help you here, which you see is stop looking for cheap lands, right? Stop looking for cheap land. Generally, cheap lands have a way of having issues with government, right? And then the more you are looking for cheap land, the likelihood of you having an issue with government will be very high simply because you are looking for cheap land. And then you say, oh, this one's one is expensive, not knowing that this one has been endorsed by government. And the one that is not endorsed by government will be going for 500K, while the other one is going for 5 million. And then you end up saying this is cheap. And then later on, you have an issue. And then you start dragging everybody, dragging the real estate sector, dragging realtors, and dragging everybody in between, right? So stop looking for cheap lands and focus on lands that have the real value that can give you sustainability for your investment. And then, of course, the ultimate way to deal with the issue of revocation and demolition, as the case may be, is that always use a sound property lawyer. Again, SPL, right? A sound property lawyer, and make sure that your realtor is legally smart, right? These two things will help you. And then because of the time that we have really exhausted in this particular video, we will not be able to touch the remaining three challenges or problems and their solutions, right? We'll leave it at these three, and then hopefully we'll exhaust it in the next part of this particular video. And of course, you can get all of this in my new book that is coming up. I'm preparing a very robust handbook for everyone who's looking to invest in Nigeria, and then you should look forward to that. All of these were comprehensively in detail explained. This is just like a summary of the conversation, but in the book or any of my books, you will definitely get a whole lot more information about investing in Nigeria the right way. And of course, if you're a realtor listening to me right now, how to sell real estate. So you should look forward to that depending on when you're watching this particular video. My name again is Raymond Ijoma, and I am the lawyer that loves real estate. I feel like the real estate entrepreneur that uses law and real estate as a tool in building wealth for myself and my clients. And I look forward to seeing you in the very next video. Do make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share this with a friend. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.